Welcome to Best Picture This, where it is always Oscar season. I'm Mike.
And I'm Brian. In this show, we reevaluate every Best Picture nominee from the 21st century and decide whether to keep it or kick it from its Oscar pedestal.
Oh, spicy delivery there, Brian. I like it. If you've been following along in the show, we are just about to kick off our miniseries on the films of 2006, but since the Academy just released its nominations for Best Picture from last year, 2021, we decided to take a little detour to talk about some new movies instead for a change. So, in 2021, the nominees for Best Picture are Don't Look Up, Belfast, Coda, Drive My Car, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, The Power of the Dog, Nightmare Alley, West Side Story, and today's movie, Dune, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Here's the trailer.
My planet Arrakis is so beautiful when the sun is low. Rolling over the sands, you can see spice in the air. The outsiders ravage our lands in front of our eyes. Their cruelty to my people is all I've known. What's to become of our world?
Boy.
Hey, Duncan, can I trust you with something?
Yes, always. You know that.
I've been having dreams about a girl on Arrakis. I don't know what it means.
Dreams make good stories. But everything important happens when we're awake. Look at you. Put on some muscle?
I did?
No.
We are House Atreides. There is no call we do not answer. There is no faith that we betray.
Smile, Gurney.
I am smiling.
The Emperor asks us to bring peace to Arrakis. House Atreides accepts!
I know you. There's something awakening in my mind.
You need to face your fears.
Come with me. I need to be ready. I've never met Harkonnens before. They're not human, they're brutal.
The Duke's son sees too much.
This is why Dune. Kill them all.
God in heaven.
Get everything with guns off the ground! Go!
This is an extermination. They're picking my family off one by one.
Let's fight like demons.
Dad, what if I'm not the future of House Atreides?
A great man doesn't seek to lead. He's called to it. But if your answer is no, you'll still be the only thing I ever needed you to be. My son.
If anything happens, will you protect Paul?
With my life.
Only together can we stand a chance.
It's time.
Deadly serious trailer.
Deadly serious movie.
Is there any lightness? Jason Momoa, I guess, joking around with Timothée Chalamet a little bit.
That's a real chip-in of a joke, right? It kind of comes out of nowhere. I think they did that just for the trailer.
Any of the, a lot of the interaction between there, it feels a little bit like they're trying to break up the seriousness a little bit. Have you ever read the book?
No, I was going to ask you the same.
I have not read the book either, so I feel a little bit like an outsider, entering into this world. I don't know, like, I didn't even bother to try to keep all the tribal names straight or
there
anything.
Are a lot.
It's a lot to keep track. It's a very complicated book, complicated movie. But So, a little rundown. Dune was nominated for 10 Academy Awards. We don't know which one they won yet, as we're recording this in February of 2022.
Visual effects, I'm sure.
Yep, there's a lot of visuals, a lot of technical ones, sound visuals, production design, which is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Hans Zimmer was nominated for his 11th Oscar, or he received his 11th nomination. He only won one time.
I'm a big fan of the music.
The music
for
is
this
great.
movie.
He won for The Lion King, Disney's The Lion King in 1995.
Wow. Okay.
But he's been nominated so many times other than that. Editing, Best Picture, makeup, design, cinematography, Greg Fraser. I'm not sure how to pronounce Greg, but Greig, Greg Fraser. And then adapted screenplay. This was also one of the AFI's top 10 movies of the year. It was Peter Travers' number 8. It was made for $165 million. Box office was 400, but all these box offices in the past couple of years have a little asterisk because of the streaming component is quite a bit more dramatic. It was released in theaters in the United States, and then it started streaming in October 2021. So less than a week after its domestic release, though, Dune Part 2 was confirmed. They were just kind of give it a week, make sure it's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
A little bit of background also. Alejandro Jodorowsky acquired the rights in the 1970s to make a 14-hour adaptation. It fell through. But that was his efforts were turned into a documentary in 2013, the making of this movie that didn't actually come about. David Lynch made Dune in 1984. Did you ever see that?
I saw it just recently, a couple of weeks
really?
ago.
I was wanting to go back and watch it, but I never got to it. It's a 3-hour movie, poorly received. He also didn't like it, but what did you think of it? The 1984 Dune.
Man, there's a lot to get into with Lynch's version, and it's my least favorite David Lynch movie,
Really?
and it sounds like it's his also.
Mm-hmm.
The special effects are very wacky and 80s-ish, but I don't really care so much about that. What's sort of the weirdest about his iteration, if you want to call it that, of this story is because it's so dense, he uses these shortcuts to try to keep the audience caught up.
Mm-hmm.
And so we start with this sort of omniscient narrator who just comes on screen and just sets it all up and
As
says,
omniscient as Zendaya?
I guess so. And she says, here's what's going on. And she kind of lays it all out. And she'll pop up again throughout the movie, every now and then to kind of catch you up. But even worse than that, our characters' thoughts are narrated.
Mm-hmm.
So the characters, you'll just get a little inside glimpse in their head. Somebody will think something like, he's acting weird. I wonder if he's thinking of betraying me. Stuff like that. It's questionable.
Well, he didn't really like it too much.
No, it does have some kind of interesting horror touches, though, which I appreciated.
That's
because that gives, you can see a signature on it a little bit.
Yeah. One other quick note on Greg Fraser, the cinematographer, which I loved the visuals in this movie. I'm a big sucker for big scale, sci-fi kind of shots in general, so it was an easy sell for me. But he also shot Rogue One, Zero Dark 30, and the upcoming The Batman. So in the show, we will ask each other 3 questions guaranteed to produce golden takes. We will talk a little trivia, and then would you keep it or kick it? We haven't done a top 5 versus top whatever the number here.
I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that for this.
Not this one too much.
We'll figure out something to say at the end.
We'll see if you like it or not.
Yeah.
So question number 1.
Okay, so as you said, this story is incredibly dense, and there's a ton of lore, characters, worlds. There's a lot of made-up words. And I was curious too if you had come into this with any knowledge of the book or David Lynch's movie, which another thing about Lynch is this movie I think is about 2 hours and 35 minutes.
2:35, yeah.
Lynch's movie is like 15 minutes shorter and the entire story. And this movie is kind of just starting, it seems, at the beginning.
It's like trying to do The Hobbit in one movie.
Yeah. I mean, this movie is ending, it seems, at the beginning of kind of the story in a way.
Gotcha.
So all of that stuff in mind, did you have any trouble following what is going on here?
At times I did, but not horribly. I mean, I was, you know, they have little cheats. Like at one point there's, you know, they're overlooking a battle going on, and like some of them look gray and some of them look tan. You know, I don't know. There's things like that they try to keep it. Again, it didn't really bother me though. I kind of figured that this is a movie where if you really care about every little, you know, political detail or every tribal change, you probably do have to kind of read the book. You have to make it more of a matter of study. And whether I ever do that, I don't know. I mean, I actually have the book on Audible. And I started listening to it one time, and I was like, this is something I should probably read and not just listen to, because it's a little too much. But
you need to get your highlighter out.
Yeah, no kidding. You got to cross-reference and stuff. Like,
have one of those boards on your wall where you connect everything with red string, you know?
Uh-huh.
So this was my first exposure to it also, because I saw it before David Lynch's version. And kind of like you, I got the big stuff. You know, I understood this lore about the One, that there's a betrayal, that there are different planets that we call houses. I get all that, the importance of spice in this universe. But there are some things here that were confusing to me. Like, even after the movie ended and I'm leaving the theater, I realized that I wasn't 100% sure if Stellan Skarsgård's character was the Emperor or if he was just another leader of a planet. And I think it's because he's kind of the only one who has what seem to be superpowers in this. You know, he kind of floats, which I think is actually what he's wearing.
I love the horror visuals of his whole character. Again, how he fit in with the Emperor and the House of Atreides.
Yeah.
I guess I was a little foggy on that too, which it didn't really bother me though. I don't know. I'm willing to, we all have our favorite genres that we're willing to forgive certain things. I'm not so willing to forgive, you know, some silly humor. A lot of times it just gets boring to me. A lot of hand-to-hand combat I get bored with. With a lot of sci-fi though, I'm willing to kind of say, you know what, I'll let them have their political fun. But sometimes I felt the same way with Lord of the Rings too. Like occasionally I'm like, who are they allied with?
Yeah.
You know? Oh, well, let's just keep watching the action.
Yeah, no, I could see that, because you can you can sort of follow I don't know, there's like there's an emotion tied to the dramatic arcs, and you can just kind of follow that. Oh, so now this is important. I guess I'll just invest in this scene. But I do think it is a little bit of a problem that, especially if this is only half of the story, which, by the way, it would have been really weird if they didn't make a second part of this.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that got greenlit. But if this is only one part of it, the idea being that Villeneuve is stretching it out, you know, using more time so that we do understand, it seems a little odd that you would come out not really feeling like you do understand exactly what is going on in this universe.
I think it's really hard for people who are really passionate about Dune, which a lot of the filmmakers were. You know, they decided to go with this project as opposed to others because of Dune. It's sort of like someone who is really into Star Wars making a Star Wars movie, and a little harder for them to bring in all the non-Star Wars fans. And I don't know if they even care that much about bringing in all the people who, you know, dismissed Dune from the beginning. But yeah, I could see where you got to, it's a tough calculation.
Yeah. Because it feels a little like a 2.5 hour prologue.
Yeah.
But then at the end, I'm kind of like, I guess I get it. You know, I can go along for it. And that's a weird reaction to have after 2.5 hours of setup, essentially.
What I saw, I didn't really think of it as just purely setup. I mean, I think the movie does stand alone. It stands alone in that it's a satisfying watch, even though you know that there's clearly going to be a part 2 to it. I guess I felt like the arc of, you know, the chosen prince, Paul, Timothy Chalamet, ends up essentially homeless and not the royal, you know, guy anymore, basically. And then he's probably going to end up restoring to the throne. I don't know, but I guess the fall from power, fall from influence, restarting on a sort of apocalyptic, you know, scale. That was intriguing to me, and my simple mind was okay with that part.
My simple mind, because he's having visions early in the movie about Arrakis and about Zendaya and about the blue eyes. So you know that he's destined to be there,
yes,
and to serve a greater purpose. But then basically he gets there and the credits roll. So I wonder. You mentioned the 1970s getting this 14 hours. Maybe this is a TV show. You know,
could be.
Maybe this is better as an HBO miniseries.
We've talked about that before. That some really long stories really do work better in that format, even though I don't usually watch those, but it could be something to consider.
I wonder if they would have gotten the same
Dune in 20 years.
I wonder if they would have gotten the same budget though, because there's so much money put into the spectacle of it, and I would hate to lose that because I mean that's my favorite thing going here.
Yeah. So my question to you, first question. So Villeneuve avoided the internal monologues of David Lynch. And he focused more heavily on Paul, Timothy Chalamet, his mother, Rebecca Ferguson, who I think is very good, and the father, Oscar Isaac, played by Oscar Isaac. And they have like a secret hand gesture that you know, to try to like basically overcome some of the monologue part maybe. But how did you feel? Did the family dynamic, did those did they work for you? Did you feel emotionally invested in that family?
Not really. Not that they didn't work for me. It's more that I just wasn't emotionally invested, you know, in Oscar Isaac. And this is a spoiler show. Again, we should say, because this is a new movie. So I think we need to clarify that even more. If you haven't seen Dune, push pause and go see it, because we're going to talk about some stuff that happens right now. So when Oscar Isaac croaks,
that's the magic of the pause button. It lasts forever.
Yeah. When he gets killed, I didn't really care. But I did like that in this movie, he's given that moment to actually be a good father, which you don't see a whole lot in movies about the chosen one. Yeah. Where he basically says, you're supposed to be the leader here, but if you don't want to be the leader, like that's your business. I'm not going to force you to do something you don't want to do.
That scene I thought was very powerful. Probably, you know, the most emotionally engaging part of the movie. And when he died, I don't know, it felt a little hokey, like the cyanide gas shows up and like everybody dies instantly. It felt a little, and his expression, I don't know, that was a little bit not carried out as well as I would have liked. But
I do like the mother character though, and the role that these sort of witches play. Me
too. I loved that part, and so I guess it between father and son is a little short-lived, but the relationship between mother and son, that's really what the heart of the movie is all about.
And they seem to be the real power here. They're the ones who are the most powerful, but also they're kind of in the background. You know, Oscar Isaac is like this space king, but the mother is the one who can control anybody's mind just by talking.
She got a bigger role in this movie than the book suggests. I also read about. Question 2.
Okay, so who did Sandworms better? You tell me. This, Tremors, or Beetlejuice?
I haven't seen Tremors or Beetlejuice.
Wow.
Mark Gilliland, our illustrious producer, just shot up. His head just popped up. I apologize. Apparently that was the wrong thing to say. But the sandworms, to me, I thought I saw a preview where like it actually rose out of the sand. And I guess, I don't know if I missed that. Maybe I fell asleep or something. But I thought mostly what you saw was like the mouth swallowing people, like Jabba the Hutt's, counterpart in the sand in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
But wow. The sandworms were, it was fine.
So Beetlejuice, you're saying?
Sure, yeah. I love Beetlejuice.
Well, in the second Dune, I think we're going to see a lot more of the worms. And if you want to see more worms, watch the David Lynch version, because there's some worm riding going on. Paul rides some worms. I'm just going to give you a little spoiler.
Excellent. You can spoil a 1984 David Lynch movie all day long.
Okay.
Okay, so my question number 2 is Villeneuve didn't like the fact that this was on streaming.
Yeah, I understand that.
He said, quote, "My team and I devoted more than 3 years of our lives to make it a unique big screen experience. Our movie's image and sound were meticulously designed to be seen in theaters," unquote. Still, even half in my van, which I watched the first half on little screen in my van with good sound.
That kills me.
And then I watched the other half when I got home on the Macmillan big screen, which is at least 40 inches.
Okay.
My question is, can cinema survive without jolts from movies like Dune?
Can cinema survive without jolts from movies like Dune?
Can
I think that
movie
cinema
theaters-
will always survive.
Can movie theaters survive without jolts from movies like Dune?
Yes, I think so. I think it's going to change because people, it's just like with work right now, the pandemic kind of taught a lot of companies that, we can do this remotely. Like not everyone has to come into a brick and mortar. And I think people
Which a lot of us knew from the beginning.
Everyone knew from the beginning. but I think it's the same thing with movies in a way. People are realizing that they like watching movies at home. There's a certain, comfort there and it's cheaper. But you lose a lot. In movies like this, you lose a lot of the spectacle. You lose the great sound.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You lose the massive screen. And he's right. I mean, they devoted a lot of time and money into making this a movie that looks good and works on a big, big screen. But then other than that, just if you think of like horror movies or comedies, it works the same way. Being in that audience dynamic gives you something that you don't get when you're at home.
The shared experience is, I guess that's really the question that we're going to be asking ourselves for the next, say, decade or so as things continue to shift, is that shared experience and the immediacy of, I'm watching this for the first weekend like everybody else, how much is that worth to people? And when you have it streamable on the first weekend or shortly thereafter, you do lose that motivation to go to the movie. I guess, that's obvious. That's what the argument is about. But
I think it's going to keep changing, but I don't think that the desire to see a movie in theater is just going to evaporate. I mean, because even taking away the shared experience, I'm one to go to the theater for a matinee on a weekday if I take a day off or something, and I'm in there by myself.
Yeah.
But there's just something about I'm not looking at my phone if I'm in the movie theater. The dogs aren't barking. Like all
Those
I'm doing
dogs.
is focusing on the film, and that's a better way to watch a movie.
Well, I have to say that a friend on Facebook commented that she watched this movie on IMAX. I was very jealous considering my movie screen in my van.
In your van.
Question 3.
All right, so Villeneuve has now made Dune, Blade Runner 2049, Arrival, and I'll even throw Enemy, the Jake Gyllenhaal movie, in there to a certain extent. So with that set in mind, is he officially this generation's sci-fi maestro?
That's a very good question. I think that the sci-fi that he's doing is pretty dynamic. I did see someone comparing him to Christopher Nolan, with Interstellar, and I have not seen Tenet yet, but Inception, Interstellar kind of have sort of a vibe like that. I don't remember if there's no space in Inception, is there?
I don't think so.
But it's
There's
still
everything
sci-fi-ish, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely sets himself up at this point. I'm going to bring in one of my trivia points here. So Villeneuve has made, this is basically, there's 3 phases of his career. The first was 4 low budget movies that I won't mention because I don't really know anything about them. But phase 2 was Prisoners. That was his first movie with a budget of in the $40 million range. He had basically $5 million budget for like the first 4 movies. Then he had Prisoners, Sicario, and Arrival in the $40 million range. Prisoners and Sicario, tough watches. I'm going to watch them again. But Arrival was like in the $40 million range. That seemed to kind of set the stage for moving on to phase 3, which was Blade Runner. That had a budget of 185. Dune is 165. We're about to see now the third movie of phase 3 in a year or two, which is going to be Dune Part 2, which is also going to have a huge budget, probably in the 165 plus range.
Yep.
So it does make me wonder, like you're saying, this guy is it, for these blockbuster sci-fi movies. I wonder where he goes from there. I mean, he might even get a Marvel movie someday. What do you think?
I don't know if he wants a Marvel movie, and I think he's getting big enough budgets as it is. But Prisoners, Really powerful.
Very powerful.
Incendies is in his early.
Okay, that was one of the low budget ones.
Yeah, that's a pretty incredible movie. Really, it's a challenging watch, but it's pretty great. And I love Arrival, and that
Me too.
that 45,
Wow.
47 million.
We agreed on a movie. That's
Yeah,
great.
and that budget is like enough to make it look
It
beautiful, but it's like not huge. And then in these recent two, Blade Runner and this movie, the spectacle is bigger. Everything is bigger. Yeah. And although I kind of love that he's given the money to make these sweeping epics, I kind of feel like the bigger the spectacle gets, the more emotionally cold these movies feel to me.
I think that's more about the stories and the characters than it is anything. Because, I mean, Ryan Gosling in Blade Runner 2049 and everybody in this movie, the characters are just kind of a little colder. I mean...
But is that because we're focusing more on the world building than we are
so.
on
I don't think so. I don't think you can blame the big world building, I think, yeah, I don't think it does. But I just saw today an article on IndieWire, Francis Ford Coppola. He's a bit cranky. You know?
Yeah.
He's become a Marvel hater, just like Scorsese. He called Marvel movies despicable. I mean, come on. People are having fun at the movies. So Francis Ford Coppola said Dune and what is the other one?
No Time to Die.
No Time to Die.
Mm-hmm.
He says both of those, it's basically like the big blockbuster, big budget movies. You could just splice one scene from one and put it into the other one and it's all the same. Yeah. And it's really a shame because they're basically, these big budgets are ruining these Denis Villeneuves of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree? Are you as cranky as Francis Ford Coppola?
No, but I don't think that we should be surprised that these old guys who have dedicated their life to making movies and came up in the 70s are annoyed that Marvel has taken over the world. And, you know, it's like they release 6 movies a year and they all kind of look the same. Now, grouping Dune together with No Time to Die, I'm guessing he hasn't seen either of them because these are two of... One, the better big budget movies, but two, I think the most identity, the most separate identity compared to the other big budget movies that come out per year. I mean, you can't, they're not the same, James Bond and Dune in any way. But I get what he's saying. But I kind of am not interested in going down the like. Let's all hate Francis Ford Coppola now because everyone went through that with Scorsese for a while. And it just creates this sort of divide where it's, you know, we sort of operate under this delusion that there's not enough room for both. Yeah. Like you can have big budget fun movies and artsy, you know, micro budget.
I like to think that there's room for all of it. My third question is from Kevin Mayer of The Times. He gave this movie 2 out of 5 stars, stating that every frame is spectacular, but yet Dune is also kind of boring. Do you agree?
Yep.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would give it a higher score than him. I did like this movie a lot.
Did you do your Letterboxd on this? Or what?
Yeah, I gave it a 3.5 on Letterboxd. I think that there is a lot to like in this movie, but I got a quote from Peter Rayner that I feel like sums up my experience.
Where's Peter Rayner again?
Let me see.
You've heard this
Peter
name
Rayner.
before.
He's from the Christian Science Monitor.
Oh.
He says, "I admire any director who is able to create a self-contained world on such a scale, but this is an epic for the eye, not the heart." That's a positive review, and I think that aligns with my feelings on it. That I'm able to look at the eye spectacle and appreciate it and say, "This is very cool," but I don't leave the theater feeling any deep feelings or feeling compelled to tell people that they need to see this.
Well, it's interesting because there have been movies that I have said, no, that can't make my top 5 because it didn't hit me in the gut, you know? But sometimes when a movie is, I don't know, the big sci-fi sweeping visuals that this has and pulls off so well, it kind of, it overwhelms that part of it for me. I was like, every time a new shot came out, I was like, wow, wow, wow. And there's enough of the characters that it kept me going. I really like this. But I won't say whether I keep it or kick it yet until after a couple trivia points.
Okay, let's hear them.
There's more than 2,000 visual effects were shot for this movie. The shots used a chroma key process that visual effects supervisor Paul Lambert called sand screen. So instead of using green screen, they used brown colored tones for the desert. Kind of interesting.
Okay.
Hans Zimmer had worked with Villeneuve on Blade Runner 2049, and Christopher Nolan asked him to come and do Tenet, but Zimmer opted for Dune because he loved the book. So he's one of those characters. And he did not want the soundtrack to sound like his previous work, so he used instruments atypical of a Western orchestra, an approach he called anti-groove. The music is great. I love the bagpipes showing up, all of a sudden. There was a really great mixture of, ancient and super sci-fi, future. I loved the weird religious culty vibes of, The Witches too.
Yeah. If you want to learn
it gives
more,
ancient versus, this clash of ancient versus future is really fascinating, I think.
if you want to learn more about how he put these songs together and what he was thinking, there's a really good podcast called Song Exploder that he's on, and he kind of breaks down the title track for this movie and sort of breaks it down layer by layer, teaches you sort of how he put together and what he was thinking and what instruments were used. It's pretty interesting.
Very cool. So keep it or kick it? I'll keep it.
With no other movies of 2021 to compare it to. I think that it's...
Well, we have Power of the Dog.
I think it's a technical achievement, but that sort of inhuman quality of Villeneuve, I think, is pretty strong, and I don't connect emotionally to this.
Yeah.
But it's great to look at, and I'm glad I saw it in the theater.
You know what else is a plus for this is the chosen one narrative. I was kind of intrigued by those. So, in the next episode, we are going to be talking about The Power of the Dog, a Netflix Western by Jane Campion, set in 1925 Montana, starring Benedict Cumberbatch, Kirsten Dunst, Cody Smith-McPhee. It got 12 Oscar nominations.
Find us at bestpicturethis.com, on Spotify, Apple, or wherever else you listen. We're also on Facebook and Twitter at Best Picture This. And for 16 years of Golden Takes, head over to Letterboxd/Mike Cavalieri.
To support the show, visit patreon.com/bestpicturethis.
Thanks to WNDF and the illustrious Mark Gilliland for producing. And please remember to rate, review, and subscribe.
Thanks for listening to Best Picture This, which is perfectly fine to listen to on your phone, even if you don't have a big screen nearby.
That's true.